The most suffering cave incidents ever.
Kingston Saltpeter Cave Incident. On the night of November 7th, 1980, two couples decided to throw a party inside Kingston Saltpeter Cave in Georgia. One boy was
Okay. Throwing a party in a cave. Let's go ahead and break that down right quick. Why? Like what? Even if you like spelunking and stuff like that, like why? That doesn't even sound.
22, the other was 16, and both girls were 16.
Whoa! What the fuck going? Wait, there's a prayer in there. Wait, there's a prayer in there. Hold on.
They entered the cave at 11 p.m. with supplies and firewood. They built a massive campfire deep inside the cave. They settled in to drink beer, smoke pot, and enjoy their underground hideaway. At some point, they fell asleep beside their roaring fire. When they woke up, the cave was filled with thick, acrid smoke. The air burned their lungs and their eyes watered uncontrollably.
Yo, they are stupid though. Hold on, that was stupid. They're retarded. I ain't gonna lie, yo. Smoking in a confined space. Not already going to 22-year-olds in that motherfucker with a 16-year-old. You feel what I'm saying?
Hours of breathing smoke and carbon monoxide had poisoned their systems. They were experiencing headaches, dizziness, nausea, and confusion. One was vomiting and another was hyperventilating. The smoke was so thick they couldn't see more than a few feet. In their compromised state, they couldn't remember which way led out. They went deeper into the cave searching for clearer air, moving further from safety. That morning, 4 experienced spelunkers arrived to work on a cave mapping project. Joe Sneed, Jim Henry, Jay Henry, and Larry Blair noticed unusually thick smoke. At 10 a.m., Sneed and Jim Henry went to investigate the fire. The smoke grew so dense a powerful wheat lamp could only penetrate about 6 feet. They found the campsite with a tent, boots, blankets, beer cans, and marijuana. About 200 feet deeper, they found all 4 young people. The 16-year-old boy was lying unconscious on the cave floor. A girl was kneeling over him while the other 2 stood dazed. They had walked right past their own campsite and continued deeper into the cave. Henry and Sneed began carrying the unconscious boy and told the others to follow. The 3 conscious ones barely helped, moving like zombies. When they could see the way out, the 22-year-old took charge and they ran ahead. They left their unconscious friend behind with the 2 strangers. The boy told Larry Blair others needed.
Oh, wow. What? So you took. Yo, they ran out of there? They just left Brody? Yo, after that, yo, I'm cutting all of them off. Like, what? I'm cutting every last
a lantern, but didn't mention it was urgent. Blair arrived later, and the 4 rescuers worked together to carry the boy out. Blair went back alone with a wet bandana to retrieve possessions and put out the fire. Outside, the unconscious boy started mumbling a few words. The rescuers urged them to seek medical help immediately. The 22-year-old refused, and they put their semi-conscious friend in the car and drove away. The 4 rescuers stood there worried and confused about what they just witnessed. Levi Cave Incident. On the 11th of July, 1988, 34 teenagers from Open Bible Center in Cana, Illinois
35. Dang.
stopped near Walden's Ridge in Chattanooga, Tennessee. They were on their way to Florida for vacation. The group split in half. 17 went to a shopping mall. 17 went to explore Levi Cave. Mary Beth Grammer, a 17-year-old, was among those who chose the cave. They had no caving experience, just sneakers and gas station flashlights. About 50 feet into the cave, the floor suddenly dropped away into a vertical pit. The only way across was a narrow 8-inch ledge along the left wall, slick with moisture from the nearby waterfall. Mary Beth volunteered to go first. An older boy positioned himself on the safe side, ready to offer his hand once she crossed. She pressed her back against the cold wall an inch sideways. The beam from her flashlight revealed a 20-foot drop onto jagged rocks below. Her right foot slipped on the wet stone. For a fraction of a second, she caught herself, hands scrabbling against the wet wall. The boy lunged forward, his hand outstretched. Their fingertips touched for one terrible moment. Then she fell 20 feet and hit the rocks below with a sickening crack. Dark blood pooled beneath her head as she lay motionless. The walls of the pit were smooth with no handholds to climb down. 2 members sprinted back to call for help. At approximately noon, the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office received the call. Rescue teams arrived and set up ropes and rappelling equipment. It took 15 agonizing minutes to get a paramedic down to her. She had severe head trauma, weak pulse, and shallow breathing. During the rescue, 2 rescuers slipped on the wet limestone and sustained minor injuries. They pulled her out and began CPR immediately. Her pupils were fixed and dilated with blood seeping from her ears. At 1:47 p.m., less than 2 hours after she fell, Mary Beth Grammer was pronounced dead. The group never made it to Florida and returned home to Illinois with only 33 teenagers. Rubidoo Spring Cave Incident on the 23rd.
Wow, yo, bro, like, I swear to God, yo, right. In my opinion, why would they, yo, you see slippery red rocks, you done look down with a flashlight, that's a far ass drop. None of us are going. First off, none of us are going down there. That's what I'm saying. We ain't none of us going there. That's just
Of
unsafe.
August 2003, three friends gathered at Rubidoux Spring Cave in
made
Missouri.
me
Stephen
mad.
Wyra,
Like, why they
50,
do
checked
that?
his equipment alongside Ron Shirley and John Davis. They planned to explore the big room located 1,400 feet from the entrance at 165 feet depth. Rubidoux Spring Cave wasn't for beginners and required proper planning and experience. Each wore a dry suit to protect against the 50-degree Fahrenheit water temperature. They carried double tanks filled with Trimix and additional stage bottles with nitrox. They also had underwater scooters to conserve energy and air supply. For Stephen, this would be his first time using a scooter on a dive. Their plan was to breathe nitrox to the drop-off at 350 feet in and 50 feet deep. There they would leave their nitrox tanks at 70 feet for the return journey. After switching to Trimix, they would use scooters through Wichita Avenue to reach the big room. They descended and attached to the permanent guideline about 75 feet from the entrance. They activated their scooters and traveled through the upper tunnel. After 350 feet, they reached the drop-off and placed tanks at 70 feet depth. They continued their descent into the lower tunnel of Wichita Avenue. Unknown to Ron and John, Stephen's stage bottle was emptying faster than expected. Stephen switched to his back-mounted tanks earlier than planned without alerting his companions. The big room finally came into view and they paused to explore briefly. As they began their return journey, Stephen checked his tanks and saw just 500 psi remaining. He signaled Ron, showing him the dangerously low gauge. Ron immediately offered his extra regulator attached to a long hose. Stephen continued breathing from Ron's tank but struggled to control his buoyancy. John, unaware of the problems, continued ahead. Stephen and Ron reached the end of the lower tunnel at 135 feet and began ascending. Above 100 feet, Stephen's buoyancy problems worsened and he floated upward faster than Ron. The regulator was pulled from Stephen's mouth. Stephen swam back down, took Ron's backup regulator, and gave the OK signal. Ron tried to locate his primary regulator, and when he looked up, Stephen was gone. The activity had stirred up silt, drastically reducing visibility. Ron ascended to the 70-foot stop where Stephen's bottle remained alongside his. Ron collected his bottle and continued toward the entrance, hoping Stephen had sought help. Upon surfacing, Ron reported Stephen was missing. Rescue divers quickly entered and tragically discovered Stephen's body floating near the ceiling. All three of his tanks were empty, and the exhaust valve on his dry suit was completely closed. Analysis revealed Stephen's regulator might have leaked, the scooter noise masked the leak, and the closed exhaust valve prevented buoyancy control. Waynesville Cave Incident. On the 23rd of May, 1990.
Yo, that's what I'm saying, yo. Every time I see a cave video, bro, like, why are y'all going in the water? I would never go, bro. I wouldn't even go caving like that. Especially not with water, bro. That is something you just don't play with.
Three cavers from Fort Leonard Wood made their way to Waynesville Cave in Missouri. Danny Gay, Michael, and Thomas arrived at the cave entrance shortly after sunrise. Waynesville Cave had dramatic vertical drops with the largest plunging approximately 80 feet. 27 years old, Danny had arrived without proper vertical descent equipment. His companion Thomas offered to share his gear. Danny improvised a Texas rig using a pair of short Petzl Jamar ascenders. With sunshine still warming their backs, they ventured into the cave's mouth. The temperature dropped from 75 degrees Fahrenheit to the cave's constant 56 degrees Fahrenheit. They approached the main vertical shaft that disappeared into blackness below. The entrance to the pit measured barely 3 feet across in places. One by one, they descended the 80-foot vertical shaft into the lower chambers. After exploring for several hours, the group began their ascent back toward daylight. Their equipment had become caked with the cave's sticky, slippery mud. Thomas and Michael climbed out without incident, but Danny, using his improvised Texas rig, began experiencing difficulty. Approximately 65 feet up, just 15 feet from the top, disaster struck. Danny's mud-slick gloved hand accidentally dislodged the top ascender. His weight transferred entirely to the single remaining foot attachment. His body flipped upside down, leaving him dangling by one foot, spinning slowly in the dark void. Blood rushed to his head as he hung suspended in the 5-foot diameter shaft. Each time he reached for the rope, his mud-covered glove slipped. The cave's 56 degrees Fahrenheit temperature felt dramatically colder as panic set in. After 20 minutes of failed rescue attempts, Michael and Thomas went for help. The local emergency medical service assembled a specialized cave rescue team. By the time rescuers arrived, Danny had been hanging upside down for nearly 2 hours. His body temperature had dropped dangerously, and he was experiencing moderate hypothermia. A specialist was lowered who secured Danny with additional safety lines. They corrected his inverted position and helped him complete the ascent. Danny's core temperature had dropped to approximately 95 degrees Fahrenheit. Unable to walk unassisted, he was transported through the cave in a special stretcher. He emerged into daylight wrapped in thermal blankets and was taken to a medical facility for treatment. San Antonio Cave Incident. In June 1985, 3 kids from San Antonio, Texas decided to chase an adventure. Eddie was 11, Marco was 10, and Luke was 9. That summer, kids...
why are they so young going into a cave without parental guidance?
Everywhere were mesmerized by a movie about children finding treasure in underground tunnels. For these three friends, the movie was just the beginning. On a humid afternoon, Eddie spotted a dark slit in the limestone. Cool air flowed from the opening. It was their first real cave. For kids who had just watched a treasure hunting movie, this felt like destiny. They didn't tell anyone where they were going. They had no maps, no ropes, no helmets, just 2 flashlights and a small bag of snacks. As they entered, the temperature dropped instantly. At first, the cave seemed safe, but as they went deeper, passages branched off in different directions. They didn't know how to navigate underground or mark their route. At one point, Marco got stuck in a tight crawl space. The tunnel pinched around his chest. Panic erupted as the others pulled and pushed until he slid forward. The fun had evaporated completely. They tried to get out but couldn't find the way back. In limited light, everything looked the same. They wandered through passages but only found more confusion. Their lights were failing and they were getting tired, thirsty, and scared. By evening, they sat shivering in the dark. The first signs of hypothermia appeared. Above ground, parents realized their children were missing. By midnight, a full search was underway. Parents learned the boys had talked about finding treasure like in The Goonies. They understood their children might be trapped underground. At dawn, searchers found the cave entrance. Rescue teams arrived with proper equipment. The passages were narrow, requiring crawling. For the kids underground, the wait was terrifying. They huddled together for warmth, severely hypothermic. 32 hours after they entered, a rescuer heard crying. The team found the 3 boys. Their flashlights were dead and their skin was cold. They were alive, but just barely. Blankets wrapped around them immediately. One by one, they were guided out slowly. When they emerged, the crowd broke into tears. All 3 were treated for hypothermia and dehydration. Crookston Cave Incident. On the 8th of January, 19...
That shit, wow. Niggas actually almost died because they was... And they were 9 and 10. That dumb as shit, though. Like, I ain't going nowhere like that 9 and 10 years old.
1995, Clinton Farrell woke up on a clear Sunday morning in Tennessee. He was 25 years old. Clinton and his friend had heard rumors about Civil War artifacts hidden in Crookston Cave. They decided to explore and search for treasures. Neither were experienced cavers. They wore street clothes and cowboy boots with no helmets or proper...
Caught these, they were white. Oh my God. Caught niggas trying to be shit. Like, yo, you couldn't get me to go in no cave without proper equipment.
Lighting. Their only light sources were basic flashlights from a hardware store. The 2 descended into the cave with confidence but no experience. As they went deeper, the passage narrowed and curved upward. Clinton squeezed through a particularly tight section. The passage forced him to contort his body awkwardly. Above him, a massive...
500 pounds? 500 pounds?
500-pound boulder had been gradually loosening for decades. As Clinton moved through the space, his movement created vibration. The boulder shifted with a grinding sound. It pinned Clinton's head against the cave wall with crushing force. He was trapped and unable to move. Clinton's friend saw the horrifying sight. He made the brave decision to leave and get help. He navigated back through the cave in near darkness to call emergency services. Rescue teams from Sequatchie and Hamilton County responded. They faced a nightmare scenario. Clinton was trapped 200 feet inside with a 500-pound boulder pinning it.
That nigga dead. Yo, that nigga dead. Yo, he dead.
His head. The area was geologically unstable. Underground, Clinton fought to remain conscious. The crushing pressure caused waves of pain. His bent body restricted his breathing, and hypothermia threatened. The rescue team worked with surgical precision. They installed...
How the fuck does rescue team get right here, though? Like, how did they get right there? Huh?
Supports around the unstable rock. They used a come-along device with cables and pulleys to move the boulder. The process was agonizingly slow. After nearly 5 hours, the boulder moved enough to free Clinton's head. The team carefully secured him in a specialized cave litter. They navigated narrow passages carrying their injured patient. Once outside, they faced a 100-foot slope to reach the waiting helicopter. After nearly 6 hours trapped underground, Clinton was finally heading to a hospital. Doctors found severe head trauma but were cautiously optimistic. Clinton's recovery took months of rehabilitation, but he survived.